what's the difference between a functional group, a coven, and a dysfunctional group called a cult? Hi, I'm Sandra from mysterywitchschool.com, and if you're new to this channel and you want to become a witch or a Wiccan, hit the subscribe button below so that you don't miss anything. This video is all about groups, and functional groups and dysfunctional groups. So many people want to join a coven, and covens are great to join. I've been in covens and they were absolutely awesome and wonderful. It's a community of people who all share the same goals, share the same desires in regards to their learning and their training, and you can have really, really great time with each other. And a functional group, a group that works really well together, will be a group where everybody feels confident, where everyone feels that it's okay to challenge the leadership or to question something that the leadership may be putting out there. People can have discussions about things, and you never get to feel that you're not allowed to be who you are in the group. Obviously, when you're in a group environment, you do need to be mindful of being part of a group. And so there's always a compromise with any community or any group, whether it's family groups, it's a group where you work, where you do sometimes have to compromise some of your extreme individuality for the sake of the group. But it's never something where you just can't be who you are and you're shamed for it. So a functional group is a group where you feel like you can contribute ideas, you can question, and you can grow, and you can become more confident, and you can become more engaged in the world. You can actually go out into the world confidently and bring your gifts out into the world, because we're a world community. A cult, however, is pretty much the opposite of that. And although I have never been in a Wiccan cult or a pagan cult or a witch cult, fortunately, I'm proud to say, I have been in a group that did turn into a cult. And fortunately, it didn't have anything to do with paganism. It was actually more of the Abrahamic kind of paradigm. But it was a great experience because it taught me a lot about what it's like to slowly get taken in by a charismatic leader, usually there's only one, who is very, very clever in the way that they use coercion and the way that they use persuasion to take advantage of your self-doubt, of your lower to medium self-esteem, and your ability as an intelligent person to be able to see the big picture and make connections where really connections probably shouldn't be made. What cult leaders do look for, and what cults look for, are people who are generally educated, they're generally quite intelligent. And the reason for that is that when you are smart, you're able to see a bigger picture, you're able to draw more connections. That also means that if you don't have a strong sense of self, if your self-esteem isn't very hot, isn't healthy, and you have a lot of self-doubt, you already have a lot of issues maybe with shame and with guilt, which a lot of people in spiritual communities do have because of our upbringing, then what can happen is that you don't trust yourself. You don't trust your own intuition, you don't trust your own logic, and you don't trust your own opinions if somebody is telling you something and you don't agree with them. And that's where you get caught, because the intelligent part of you will allow you to maybe accept what they're saying, because you may be able to find a way around justifying what it is that they're saying, but the part of you isn't going to agree with them, or your intuition is going to be saying, no, this isn't right. But because you doubt yourself, you're actually going to fall under their persuasion rather than trusting yourself. And that's where the danger is. So here are some signs of being in a group where there is a charismatic leader. And there are pagan groups out there, I'm sure, and Wiccan groups and witch groups, as there are all religions. And not just religion falls into this problem of cults. You can have a dysfunctional group led by a charismatic leader in pretty much anywhere where there's a group of people. but they tend to be quite famous for religious and spirituality, that kind of a niche. So it's something that's important to look out for if you're looking to join a group, because the charismatic leaders are out there. The first thing to look for is to do with the leadership. Is the leader open to you being able to criticize them? Because generally in a cult environment, or when a group's starting to become a cult environment, if you criticize anything the leader says, you are shamed for it, you are judged for it, you are criticized for it. They will call you names, they will try to embarrass you, they will try to bring you down psychologically, they will abuse you emotionally, they will abuse you psychologically. They will call you names such as an anti-whatever, or an apostate, or a suppressive person. There's all sorts of different names, and different cults have different names for people who are criticizing, or who also, they're also generally referred to under those names once they've left the group. But if you are criticizing the leader in any way, and you're being shamed for it, you're being run down for it, then you need to put your alarm bells on, take note, and just make a little note of how often this happens, okay? Because that is a very common thing with cults. You cannot, their leader is supreme, they are absolutely totally infallible, they know everything, they're omniscient, they're omnipotent, they're everything. And if you go criticizing them, then you will pay the price. So number one there. The next one again is that you can't have any criticism or skepticism about what it is that they're teaching, or about their methodology. And again, you'll be shamed for it, you'll be embarrassed, and you will often be sometimes even punished for it if you're in one of those really tight-knit communities. Another aspect of a cult is that the group becomes an elite group, and they become suspicious of anyone who is not part of that group. Some even become so paranoid about the outside world that you're not even allowed to read books from the outside world. You can only read the material that they provide for you. It can get that extreme. Others aren't quite that extreme. The group that I was in wasn't quite that extreme. What was there was the leadership basically became infallible, and you had to basically believe everything that he said. The second thing was you couldn't have any criticism of what he was saying and what he was doing, and it would be very subtle. You know, it could be very subtle innuendos and criticisms about you, maybe the way you dress, or something you said, or little digs at you that if you've already got if you're already vulnerable in the self-esteem department, it's going to lower your self-esteem more and more and more and more. And that's what cults do. They lower your self-esteem till virtually you have no self-esteem left, and you're completely doubting yourself, so that what happens is you put all of your trust, all of your decision-making onto the group and onto the leader, and they take over. And for some people, sometimes, especially if you experience a lot of self-doubt and you really do find life difficult, and it is hard for you to make decisions because of that self-doubt, sometimes it can feel good to have other people make decisions for yourself. So you need to watch that. If you're not allowed to make your own decisions, if you have to run everything by the leader of the group, then you're possibly in a cult, and you need to take note of that. I've already mentioned paranoid about the outside world, calling even the outside world sometimes different names, although that often happens in a lot of dysfunctional groups because people do like to be a little cheeky towards people that aren't part of their group. For example, calling non-witches muggles from Harry Potter is kind of a bit of a joking way of referring to non-witches, but that doesn't mean that we are paranoid about muggles or non-witches or anything. It's just kind of fun sometimes to refer to the non-witch world under another name. But you'll find that happens in a lot of groups, and it's not meant to be taken seriously, okay? And the shame cycles. This is really important, because this is how coercive persuasion works. They will build you up 1 minute. So if you're doing everything by the party line, by the group, by the leader's line, they'll build you up and get you feeling really good about yourself. And then they'll find something, one thing, to shame you and put you back down. So what they do is they do this weird sort of cycle where they build you up and then they shoot you down. Build you up, shoot you down. Build you up, shoot you down. So that creates confusion with regards to your sense of self, because 1 minute you're feeling good about yourself and the next minute you're feeling like the lowest person in the whole wide world, or the stupidest person in the whole wide world. No one wants to be the dumbest person in the world. Everyone wants to fit in. And because of our desire to fit in and be part of the group, we will justify all sorts of very strange things to be part of that group and to feel like we belong and not feel like we're going to be ostracized or kicked out of the group. We are a social species, so for most people, being part of a group or having that sense of belonging is actually really important for our sense of safety and security and survival. So if we feel like we don't belong and we're worried, like maybe we really are starting to become dependent on this group. Some people are dependent on these groups financially. Some people get themselves into situations where they've handed over all their money, they've sold all their assets, and they're dependent on this group. They're dependent now on this leader because they've given up their life in order to follow them. And so this sense of needing to belong becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. So people start to justify the strange behaviors, the strange rituals, or the strange beliefs of this group because they want to belong. So they'll justify it. They'll internalize beliefs that they may not have had before. A lot of these groups are very sexist, okay? They're very, very sexist. And often women are given a lower status in these groups. The women in these groups will internalize these beliefs about themselves because it's so important to them to belong to the group. And this happens in major religions as well. I mean, we can look at world history and see that this cult-like behavior has existed and still exists in many ways in major religions around the world. So it's not just small cults that have this problem. Major religions have this issue going on as well, where people internalize the beliefs that may actually not be true and often aren't true. So if you're in a group where you can't question the leadership, if you can't criticize, if you're feeling your self-esteem's going up and down all the time, because people are either building you up or they're knocking you down, and you're becoming unhappy and perhaps depressed, you need to find a way to safely get away from the group. And sometimes that can be really difficult because the more you get in, the more they want to keep you there. So the advice is don't get involved in these groups in the first place. With a coven environment anyway, you tend to have a period of time called a probation time where you get to suss them out and they get to suss you out. During that 3 months or the 12 months or whatever it is that the coven uses, you have the opportunity to question what they're doing, and they have the ability to be able to question whether you are fit for the group. So it's a time where in a functional, healthy group environment, you'll be seeing whether you fit with each other. And if there's a lot of things there you don't feel comfortable with, don't join the group. Don't join the group just because you want to be part of a coven or just because you want to be part of a group. Find a group that really resonates with you, that's healthy, that will help you grow with your self-esteem, that will help you stand in your power and shine your light in the world, because that's essentially what a group should be there to do, to help support you to grow as a person. Now that's not to say that we overlook our shadow side or parts of ourselves that may be harmful to other people. But when we look at that with each other, we do that in a way that's helpful to build the person up, not to knock them down. It's a very, very different environment where you're just trying to get on as a community and build a community and build your own gifts for the world. And it's another thing to be part of a cult environment where you don't get to be you. You essentially have to become the person they want you to become in order to stay a part of the group. So really take notice of that. I have had that experience, so I can speak from experience. One day I will do a video and tell you the whole story because it's actually quite a good story. lots of magic, intrigue, and all sorts of fun things. So one day I'll do a video about that. And of course, if you are wanting to get serious about learning Wicca and witchcraft, and you're trying to do it on your own as a solitary, and you just want some guidance as to where to start and how to sequence your learning, do download my free video, How to Start Your Witchcraft Practice. The link to that is below this video in the description field below. I will see you on the next video. Blessed be.